Forget everything you think you know about why gold is skyrocketing. The mainstream media is missing the real story, deliberately or accidentally. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the untold narrative, the genuine reason gold is defying all expectations and setting new records. You won't believe what's truly happening behind the scenes, so stay until the end to see it. Most people think they understand gold. They think it's just another shiny rock, a safe haven, a kind of insurance policy that investors run to whenever things look shaky. And while that's partly true, that's not the real driver right now. What's happening with gold at this very moment is something deeper, something far more important, and something almost no one is paying attention to. So let's slow down and think. Why is gold, of all things, setting new highs at a time when many experts insist it should be dropping? If you follow the textbooks, if you listen to the analysts, you'd expect the opposite trend. The Federal Reserve has been raising rates, shrinking its balance sheet, fighting inflation with everything it has. By that logic, gold should be falling. And yet, it's exploding. Why? That's what we're going to uncover today. And trust me, once you see the bigger picture, you'll never look at gold the same way again, so leave a like and let's start. Let's begin with a simple observation. Gold is not like a company. It doesn't invent the iPhone, it doesn't deliver packages overnight, it doesn't release the next big streaming service. It just sits there, unchanged, as it has for thousands of years. If you had a bar of gold in ancient Rome and handed it to someone today, it would be exactly the same. No interest, no dividends, no growth, just gold. That's why many people dismiss it. They say it's boring, useless, a dead asset. And yet, despite producing nothing, it has silently preserved wealth across every empire, every collapse, every inflationary spiral in history. That's no accident. To understand why it's skyrocketing now, you need to compare it with the only thing it's measured against: paper money, specifically the US dollar. Look back in time. In 1971, when the US officially detached the dollar from gold, an ounce of gold cost about $35. Imagine that for a moment, $35. Today we're talking about thousands of dollars for that same ounce. What changed? Not the gold. It didn't multiply, it didn't get better, it didn't evolve. What changed was the dollar. Paper money is different from gold because it can be created at will. And in moments of crisis, governments print more of it, hoping to keep the system afloat. That's what happened in 2008 during the global financial crisis. Before that point, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet was steady, roughly $800 billion. Then the crisis hit, and almost overnight, that number tripled. The Fed printed so much money to save banks and markets that something irreversible happened. Trust in the permanence of the dollar began to erode. And right alongside that, gold began to soar. Fast forward to 2020. A new crisis, this time global, and even bigger. Once again, the Fed had no choice but to do the same thing, but on an even grander scale. The balance sheet exploded to nearly $9 trillion. The supply of dollars went vertical, and just as before, gold's price responded. Not because gold was creating value, but because the yardstick we measure it against, the dollar, was being stretched thinner and thinner. Now here's where it gets strange. The Fed has been trying to undo some of this. They've been shrinking their balance sheet, raising rates, talking tough. By traditional logic, gold should be tumbling. But it isn't. It's only going higher. And that's the real mystery. Why is this happening? What force is driving gold up when all the signals point the other way? Here's the secret the media won't tell you. It's not just about inflation. It's not just about the Fed. It's about something much bigger. The global shift in power and the rise of nations that no longer trust the dollar. For decades, the dollar has reigned supreme. It has been the world's reserve currency, the one asset everyone had to hold. Countries stored their wealth in US treasuries, believing it was the safest, most reliable place to park their money. But over the last 20 years, that trust has been eroding, and now it's accelerating. Take China. Once one of the largest holders of US treasuries, China has been selling them off in massive amounts. In their place, they're buying gold. Not just a little, hundreds of billions of dollars worth. Why? Because gold is the one thing that can't be frozen, can't be sanctioned, can't be printed away. Look at Russia. After sanctions cut it out of the global banking system, it doubled down on gold. The Russian central bank is now one of the largest holders in the world. Again, why? Because gold doesn't depend on Washington's permission. Even India, which for decades held only modest amounts of gold, has been quietly stacking it in record amounts. Their reserves are growing rapidly as their economy grows because they see what's coming. They know the global system is changing. These countries, and many others, are preparing for a world where the dollar is no longer the unquestioned king. And the only way to prepare is to own the one asset no government can debase. That asset is gold. This is the real reason gold is skyrocketing. Not because of fear in the short term, not because of inflation headlines, but because, behind the scenes, the largest economies on Earth are shifting their reserves out of paper and into metal. And it's not just governments. Wealthy individuals, funds, even ordinary savers around the world are doing the same. They see debts piling up in the US that will never be repaid. They see deficits growing year after year. They see trillions being created out of thin air to patch holes in the system. And they're asking themselves a simple question. Do I really want all my savings tied to this? That's why demand for gold is rising even when logic says it shouldn't. It's no longer about the Fed's next move. It's about a global realignment, a loss of confidence in the old order, and a desperate search for something solid to cling to. Think of it like this. Imagine you're on a ship. For decades, that ship has been strong, steady, unsinkable. Everyone trusted it. But then cracks start appearing. First small ones, then bigger ones. You patch them up, but deep down you know the structure is weakening. What do? You grab a lifeboat just in case. Gold is that lifeboat. Now let's put some numbers to it. Over the last 25 years, gold has climbed from around $279 an ounce to more than $3,500. That's a 1,200% gain. Not bad for an asset that supposedly does nothing. Meanwhile, the US national debt has exploded past $30 trillion, with no end in sight. Does anyone really believe this can go on forever without consequences? When a government owes more than it can ever realistically repay, there are only two options: default or inflate it away by printing more money. And history shows us that governments always choose the second path. They always print, which means the dollar will continue to weaken and gold will continue to strengthen. Now, does this mean gold will go to $10,000 an ounce overnight? Probably not. But does it mean the upward trend is locked in for the foreseeable future? Absolutely. Because the story isn't about gold becoming something new. It's about the dollar becoming something less. And here's the part that should keep you awake at night. Gold's rise is telling us something about the world we live in. It's not just a chart going up. It's a signal, a warning, a sign that trust in the system is breaking down. When governments, banks, and nations all start racing to accumulate the same thing, it's not about greed, it's about survival. So the next time you see gold's price flashing across the screen, don't just think of it as an investment, think of it as a thermometer, measuring the fever of the global financial system. And right now that fever is rising fast. The media won't tell you this. They'll keep pointing to interest rates, to inflation numbers, to temporary moves in the bond market. But those are just surface ripples. The deeper current, the one pulling everything forward, is this global migration out of paper and into gold. That's the real reason gold is skyrocketing. And once you understand it, you realise it's not about what happens this week or next month. It's about the next decade, the next generation. So let me ask you, if the world's largest economies are preparing for a post-dollar future by hoarding gold, shouldn't you at least consider why? Shouldn't you ask yourself what they see that you don't? Because by the time the answer is obvious, it may already be too late. So to stay always protected, you can subscribe to this channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments. See you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.